I wanted to be a ballerina. Hello, my name is Jodie. I'm a product manager and the co-founder of Career Insights. So before I explain what a product manager is, it's probably best to describe what a product is. And that's really anything that can be consumed. So that could be something physical, like a trainer or clothing, or something digital, like an app, or in my case, I work on websites. So a product manager is responsible for that product and taking the idea of the product or a feature of that product from idea stage to delivery. So throughout A-levels and uni, I always held a waitressing job or something in a shop just to earn a bit of money. One of the ones I really enjoyed whilst at university was I volunteered at the cardiac unit at the hospital near the university, and I helped in their exercise program with recovering patients that had had cardiac events. Enjoyed that experience so much that I actually ended up writing my dissertation on it and learning about the psychology of the patients that had been through the events and meeting all their partners as well. Really interesting and sort of opened my eyes what opportunities, in jobs that would be available after university. All of those jobs had factors of interacting with the public, and definitely in waitressing and in shop work, learning the patience of different types of characters that would come in, having to always sort of perform, so make sure that you're welcoming and polite. So those skills I think are really vital now for sort of being able to pull yourself together in any kind of stressful moment. Is really important. So I graduated from Brighton Uni and I did a degree in exercise and health science, and I returned home and started looking at what jobs were available, and I applied for a number of health related roles and also a number of graduate schemes as well in different sectors. And the health roles that came up at the time were all voluntary, so they were unpaid for quite a long contract, so 6 to 8 months. Versus the graduate scheme that I eventually went for was a paid position, which offered a lot of learning opportunity, and I could test drive different areas of the business and learn from there. Okay, I did not know what I wanted to do growing up, really, and my A-level subjects probably reflect that. So I did drama, English and history, mainly because I enjoyed them. And then right around the time I was looking through UCAS's website on what potentially I could study at uni, my uncle passed away of a heart attack. And it really sort of made me realise that health and nutrition was important to me, and it's something I wanted to learn more about. So I found a course at Brighton, which was exercise and health science, which had psychology in it, it had nutrition, I learned about the body, and I wanted to learn more and didn't really think past that into what that would mean for a job, but really enjoyed it. There isn't really a typical day, which is great, it's always interesting, but there is usually typical life cycles, and the way to probably think about it is working from delivering an idea. So an idea will come out of somewhere. So that could be from management, it could be from the market trends, it could be from clients, and often it's from sales, sort of proposing new features that might onboard a new client. So a lot of my role is to, once those ideas have come to me, and a lot of the time they're qualified because they've come from the propositions team, management, or clients that take the existing product, so there is merit in the idea. My role is to look at that idea and make sure the business case stacks up. So because I sit with the product team, so that has the technical knowledge of how that could be built and how long it would take, it's really my role to sort of communicate back with all that knowledge to the sales team, to the management, how long that piece of development would take, and therefore how much value it would add. So, for example, if a sales member suggests a feature that's really important for a new client, and I do some analysis, speak with the development team, and understand that it might take 6 months to build for this one client. There's that weigh up of, is it worth investing that time? Does it make financial sense, commercial sense to spend time on that new feature or addition to the product for that reason? So it's filtering through ideas and making sure that they have value and add value, and help the product stick, have clients that stay with the product, and also acquire new products.
New clients?
New clients. Yeah. I interact with lots of different people. So firstly, let's cover the development team, so the team that works on the product with me. So that would be developers, business analysts, quality assurance testers. Sometimes I'll work with UX designers or designers if we're developing a new experience or interface. And then you've got the IT teams who support all of that development. So they might be looking after the cloud structures, the database, ingestion, data. So lots of different teams there. But there's also heavy interaction with the sales team and propositions team, feeding in new ideas and the pipeline of clients that might be onboarding on the product. And then there's the management team as well. So they'll feed in different priorities for the business and change the roadmap every quarter, usually. A roadmap is really just a plan for your product. So we usually have a 6 to 12 month roadmap. So that means we know roughly in blocks of features what we're going to build. So that could be something on the front end. So that could be a new chart or a new interface, or it could be something technical. So we could be improving the code so the product works faster, for example. And roadmaps usually are very fluid. You write one down so you know where you're going, but things always crop up, and that's usually sales, onboarding a client, or something's a deal breaker that you need to build this like functionality to onboard a new client. And sometimes it's completely out of the blue. So for example, a regulation change like GDPR, where every company had to become GDPR compliant. So suddenly your roadmap, you have to factor in that. So it's very important to stay calm and fluid and reactive to your roadmap. The most challenging part I find is the changing of the requirements. So as I explained what a roadmap is, you have got your product team that you're working hard with to deliver new features of your product, to make sure it's working well. And you're sort of trying to set their expectations of what they should be working on. But you're fighting then requirements that might come in from the sales team or management that suddenly the priorities shift, and you have to then change your plan and be quite reactive. And I quite like a plan, so it's sometimes difficult to adapt to that and make sure the team you're working with are on board with that as well, so they understand the business need for that slight change of direction. My favourite part of the job is really geeky, and it's the problem solving. I find it really interesting to be given a requirement or an idea and tear it apart to see if it's good or how it could be achieved, and how it could be achieved in the best way, so maybe the most flexible way, or built the quickest but also sustainable. So it's really playing with those ideas and solving the best way to deliver them, which is the crux of the job, which is good. That I find it my favourite part. I did not go straight into product management. My route into product management, I think, is quite typical. So I mentioned before that I started on a graduate scheme, and my first sort of exposure to that was in what they called a customer support team. So that team would support different areas of the business and field customer communication. So that could be a client that's we're supporting their website or a data feed, and so they've got a problem with that needs sorting. Or it could have been a free website or product that we were offering that you get the general public calling in with small issues. So it was a real baptism by fire, learning all these different products and sort of who to go to get them fixed and what those products do. So after some time in that team, I applied for a role within one of the products as a junior business analyst. And that role was to really write requirements that were being fed down from the product manager and deliver them with the developer in these 2-week sprints. So the product I was working on was a new product, it was a new idea, so it was really interesting to see it build from start to finish and actually grow into quite a complex product. And during my time on there, I was promoted to a business analyst and then the product manager of that product. So that was really interesting to sort of grow with the product. And then since then, I've worked as a product manager on different types of product as well. One of the biggest differences is having to use your initiative way more. I think the thing with study, in my experience, is that, and I liked that about study, is that you have something to deliver. You might have an essay question or an exam that you have to pass, and you can just study for that or learn specifically for that, and then you join the working world and everything's, there's so many different moving parts and you have to be a self-starter, and you're not going to get your direction specifically day to day or week to week of what you should be doing with your time. And I think that's a really interesting skill, particularly for me. I was a character that did like to know what I was supposed to be doing. But now I think it's something I try and help other people with when they're starting out. As I said before, I applied for a few in the health sector, and at the time they were unpaid positions versus a lot of other sectors like tech and finance had some graduate schemes, which I did go for. The role I actually went for was through a recruiter, so I registered locally with some recruitment companies in my area, and they would ring me with jobs they thought suited not just my interests but also my skill set. So the one I went for really did line up with that because I liked problem solving and I had experience working with people. So I would definitely suggest doing that. So register with a local recruiter and really use them because they are effectively working for you and trying to find a good fit for you. So the interviews for my first job, I actually ended up doing 2 interviews. So the first was a group interview, which was interesting. It was a round table. We had to do a sort of comprehension test initially, and then we'd go through and we had to actually present on what we'd learned about the company from online, and what interested us about the company, which was really interesting to see sort of what other people came up with and how they presented it. But it's also quite challenging at the same time if you're a stressful person to sort of put yourself in that position. But I actually thought it was really well run, and you just need to stay calm and not think about anyone else. And then the second interview was a more traditional interview with the manager of the team I was going to be working with, going through my CV and asking me questions. You don't need to specifically do a degree to go to a particular job sometimes. And a lot of the time, really, it's about who you are, if you're a good fit, and what soft skills you have. Especially as a graduate, you know, you're not expected to have all those technical skills, so that on day one you can get right into the detail. They are expecting to train you up and teach you things. And so really communicating your experience of part-time jobs or volunteering was really important, especially in my experience. My route was pretty typical. So a product manager typically would be someone that either has had experience working in a product team. So you would look for, if you were looking into that, sort of junior BA roles, perhaps product consultant roles, so people that work on client projects within a team on a product. So if a website offers a particular product, they might have a team that onboards clients. So you get to know the product, and then from that you gain product knowledge that you can then become more senior in that. So I would say a business analyst role turning into a product manager role. Product management can lead to a number of things, but I think looking at it simply, you initially would start on a smaller product and then build up to managing a larger product, and that could be larger in terms of number of clients or revenue, or even a product suite. So you'd eventually look to progress to being head of product. So if you were looking at a company, they might have one head of product that looks after all the different products that the product managers report into. And then above head of product, you usually have the commercial director, who then is looking at the business cases from a higher level. So that could be something you'd want to work towards. Skills I use in the role, and I think are important. I think you need to be good with people. You're in the middle of a lot of things, and you need to be able to communicate with a lot of people. So having a good relationship with them is really important. I think you need to be good at extracting information. You're talking to a lot of different teams where that's their specialism. So the technical teams, the sales teams, the management teams, and you then have to translate all of their points of view to the other teams. So being able to get all the right information so you understand what they want or what that problem is that they can't deliver is really important. So hand in hand with that is being a good listener. So when you're speaking to one of those team members, is to really understand what their problem is or what their requirement is, so you can then go and do that further analysis. And then one of the key ones, which I touched on earlier, is being a problem solver. So being able to dive into the detail and spot any roadblocks or better ways of doing things early on, before a lot of time and money has been invested. I usually look for someone that's confident and has good communication skills. It's important in this role to, no matter what room you're in or who you're speaking to, be that a client or someone more senior in the company or someone with a lot of expertise in one area, to be able to speak up when you don't know the answer to something, and being able to then communicate that back to your team is also really important. So those are the key skills that I would look for someone in an interview, is to be more confident. What I've learned through my years at work is that everyone is learning as they go, and every day is an opportunity to learn something, and that goes for everyone, no matter how senior or expert they are. So enjoy the process and don't doubt yourself. Always be confident in what you know. It has to be a recent one that James made me read, which is by Joseph Sugarman, and we'll put a link in the description below, about ad copy. And it's really interesting. It's about the sort of psychology of sales and the power of writing, which I love writing. One of my favourite parts of the book is when he talks about, he used to run seminars for ad copy, and he'd have all types of people attend them. So for example, Victoria's Secrets, when they were a very small one-store company, would send their marketing person to this seminar to learn more about ad copy. But his daughter, who was probably only 10 at the time, would used to sit in the back of the seminars, and he'd always ask for people to volunteer their ads and to read them out loud, and she would always be first to put her hand up. And then eventually he had to let her read her ad out, and it was about why you should buy a guinea pig and why a guinea pig is the best pet. But he's got some really infectious stories, so definitely give it a read.